Hey guys, it's me, Lori Ingham, also known on some places as OtakuMom. And what I tried doing this as a video earlier today, and I don't know if it's my tablet or if something else is kind of buggy on my end. Because I tried doing two previous versions of this video, and I just said, forget it, I'm just going to do it live. Um, um, so the main thrust of what I want to talk about is the Channel Awesome Meltdown that is currently going on online. And I see a visitor. Hi. So I'm talking about the Awesome Meltdown that's going on right now. Mostly about some updates because I'm kind of late to the party. I think to say anything that's been already said. Um, but I wanted to make a comment because I've read that 69-page document that is currently going around, and apparently as of today, it's now expanded to 73 pages. Because there is now a version 2.0 that was released today, which has two additional commenters from previously from Channel Awesome that have now commented on this document. So I'm just gonna put my glasses on here and read it. So, um, and if you haven't read this document, you have to read it. I'll put a link below after the video goes live. But primarily, if you haven't read this document, it's basically a lot of grievances against the management at Channel Awesome. And some comments about some forward producers, but mostly it sticks to the three that are officially in charge at Channel Awesome. Mike Michaud, who is the CEO, and you'll have to pardon the noises in the background because my son is excited about a video game. Hey, Christopher, can you keep quiet, please? Thank you. Um, so Mike Michaud, who's the CEO of Channel Awesome, Rob Walker, and Doug Walker, who is the nostalgia critic. Um, and basically, the idea of the document is the main thrust of the document is that a lot of mismanagement going on there. People not communicating themselves, being bullied, um, being bullied, um, uh, sexual harassment, those kinds of things that were going on at the time. Um, and some of them were not salacious, but um, biggest issues involving a particular producer who uh, was being basically bullied by management uh, especially when he tried to put together a tribute uh, to a producer who had passed away, and um, tried to put together a tribute to passed away, and he was told don't do it, and then when he was told the reason was because nobody watches him and all that, and nobody watches him, they're going to get to one of the bigger producers to do. That just kind of cements in his mind they're really just after the money. And I think, from what I understand, they actually did monetize those videos, which is awful. So let me get down here. So what is it? They've added two contributors to this document. One of them is Iron Liz, who had a show on Channel Awesome very briefly. And she was dating Linkara at the time when she's talking about. She was like a assistant on Suburban Nights, one of the anniversary films, and the other one is Leslie Rice, um, who would also who would also who had also been a producer on there. Iron Liz's is the longest of the two. I'm going to only read pieces of hers because it's so long. She says there, I was a producer on the website briefly when I was dating Linkara, but I was also a production assistant for Suburban Nights. I got to see some of the shady behind the scenes stuff, as well as getting roped into actually being in the movie. As for the setup, the higher ups at the website were flying everyone down to Chicago, but we lived in Minneapolis together. At the time, Linkara didn't have a vehicle and couldn't drive mine, so it was offered I drive down to Chicago and save Channel Awesome some money and assist with production. If there's two things I recall from the production, it was being cold and hungry, as well as the phrase, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. I was never paid, never reimbursed, and never even thanked for all the work that I did. Um, in the document, she talks about how she had she got down there and she realized they didn't have enough transportation because they didn't have enough vans. So they rented 2 minivans, but then they have to start using her car. And I'd heard in a previous podcast that she had I heard a previous podcast that they originally weren't going to use her car, but they ended up using it anyway because they're afraid of the liability with using her car, but they ended up using it anyway. And so they filmed excuse me, and so they ended up using her car. They ended up using her time while she was down there, and when she says if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, they definitely did out of her. One of the worst parts of it is that she mentioned being cold and hungry the entire time she was down there. The cold part because they filmed in Chicago in April. And so it was cold, and nobody had jackets for whatever reason, and warmth was not provided to them. 8-Bit Mickey, one of the contributors, one of the producers who worked on the film, was in a Peter Pan outfit, and he was freezing. Somebody who was coming down from the set actually had to provide a jacket to him to keep him warm. Another one. She mentioned some others who were cold. The big thing is the other bit is cold and hungry. The reason why she was hungry was because they would not feed her because she was not quote unquote talent. Even though she's in the movie, she's cloak number 2 in the film, and so they refused to even feed her, and because she wasn't considered talent when she got there. And so she talks about how one day she only had like a chicken wing and a little spoonful of mashed potatoes. How she had asked for coffee with her order, and they told her no because she wasn't talent. And it went on the entire time she was down there for the shoot, like that. And she said she had no off day. I worked every day. This went double when the entire group was shooting together, where I would also act as a runner of sorts. She goes on the whole thing of talent. Let me read the talent. Let's read this part of it. But from the get-go, it was clear I was not part of the talent. I remember I asked once if I could add a coffee to a breakfast order and was told no because I wasn't talent. This didn't change either as production went on. When I was recruited to be Cloak 2, there were times when I would shoot scenes like the battle scene, be called to transport something, and then be called back to shoot again. I remember one instance where I helped pick up Popeye's chicken for lunch, but was essentially told that I couldn't have any despite filming at the time. I remember that entire day I ended up eating a single chicken leg and a spoonful of mashed potatoes the whole day of production. Let's see. Yeah, there's a whole bunch here. She wrote a lot. She mentioned it to me. She also wrote, I remember Benzai 2 would run Benzai, who's another producer. Benzai 2 would run sprints back and forth to keep himself warm. Christopher. Sorry, that was my son. Run sprints back and forth to keep himself warm. Several of Doug's friends who played bit roles brought jackets with them, and I remember running to grab them in between takes so Mickey could warm up. Eliza too, when she was on set, Eliza's another producer who's still currently on the site. When she was on set, was often very cold. It was particularly frustrating because the talent was unable to leave, but if I wanted to go get food for them, I'd essentially have to pay out of pocket to help. Not that I could leave anyway in the event someone needed something, or if I had to run back to the van to get some props or something else they needed. Um, so a lot of times the talent was held hostage. They could not go anywhere on this um, production. For the most part, it wasn't like, and they were, and just remember, they, in other reports, if you report it, they were not paid for this. They were not paid to be there. They were doing it as a favor. Their payment was a copy of the DVD, and they actually had to do crossovers and give them to the management so that they could profit off of them and make up the costs of this production. And if you'd read the document, you know, Linkara had actually mentioned the next thing I'm about to read, about the fact that Liz had gotten hurt when she was acting, and that injuries on the set were a normal thing. They never hired stunt people. They had to do their own stunts. And there was no concern about safety or anything on these sets. So they pretty much had to do their own stunts, and a lot of times they got hurt. So let me read what she wrote. But the biggest issue was the injury. In the movie where Orlando destroys the cloaks, Orlando did a side stomp on my knee where I'd fall to the ground and he'd finish me off. The only problem was he did it for real and stomped my knee in. Linkara helped me back to the Walker's house, and no sooner had I got in than I was given the "we're not liable for any injuries" form to sign by Rob. I previously hadn't signed one because I wasn't talent, and he gave it to me before he'd give me any ice. I didn't want to sign it, but Rob laid the pressure on. I wasn't on the website yet. I was hoping that showing them how hard I was working might help get me signed. Yes, stupid, I know. I also didn't want to sign it because it also essentially said I was signing over the performance, as limited as it was, to Channel Awesome, and I wasn't getting paid for it. I don't remember if I signed it or not. I vaguely recall that I did, but I do recall hobbling up the stairs to get ice for my knee. Fortunately, after about a week or two, it got better, but I did have a fist-sized splotchy bruise after. So, yeah, she got seriously hurt on this production. And she did go on to work for them for about 4 to 6 months for a while, but didn't end up not staying. And she says here, the contract at the time stated there were 6 daily upload slots that you'd have to grab if you wanted to upload content. Eventually, this went up to 7, but it was understood Doug had rights on the first 2 slots for posting content. This meant there was a mad scramble for slots, and you often need to reserve them way in advance. If I recall, the slot required you to post either once a month or twice a month, and as a newbie, I was back of the line. I also started in the 4th quarter around the holidays. Doug was releasing content every single day, taking up more and more slots. I think he eventually got dibs on 3, and I remember panicking because I couldn't get a slot to put content up to stay active. When I complained, I was essentially told that Doug was the star and to be quiet. Then when I couldn't get a slot to post content, I got a stern talking to by Rob. So yeah, that's and that's not even all of it, but yeah, that's the gist of Iron Liz's comment on this video. On this document, is that she was not allowed to. It seemed like she was almost not allowed to complain because she was just called lazy and whatnot, and it just made her feel bad, just like everybody else apparently on the as part of channel. Which really, this whole thing is so disappointing to me. Mostly because I've been a fan of the Nostalgia Critic for a while ago, almost in the beginning, because I discovered him through Angry Video Game Nerd, and because I like watching Angry Video Game Nerd, because a lot of the video games that he talked about were ones that I played when I was a kid, or at least heard of as a kid, and I found him through that. And when I started watching Nostalgia Critic, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So I started watching Nostalgia Critic, and I still watch him, but this is disappointing because I really like his show, um, and it comes down to how far do you separate the talent from their actions, which I think a lot of us are having to face now. I mean, not even with stuff like this. Think about Harvey Weinstein and all this, and Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, all these people abusing their power for various reasons um, in various ways, um, and just making things worse, and not even really paying attention to who they're hurting in all of this. And it's really kind of really disappointing that this kind of thing happens. Anyway, so the next account is Leslie Rice. She wrote, upon joining, received multiple. Hers is very short, so I'm going to be able to read her whole statement. Upon joining, received multiple messages asking for me to send material I had already submitted, stressing that I would not be placed on the site until I had sent it. Scheduled episodes being moved from the date they had initially been entered. Upon being locked out of CA files, being told for several months that I would receive a new password before being told to just send my work on via Skype, and that management would take it from there. After being told I would be removed from the site for failure to post 2 videos a month once, I missed a second deadline and awaited the worst. No contact was ever made by any member of the management team, and assuming that the situation would resolve itself, I went about posting my content elsewhere as usual. After half a year without contact of any sort, my content was finally removed. So, again, mismanagement. They make mistakes, and they're not willing to own up to them. It's just sad. In regards to their feelings on the whole thing, and it's the whole situation is just really, really sad. And honestly, it's something I have to think about going forward too when I watch my entertainment as to whether I'm going to keep watching Nostalgia Critic or not. I mean, I'll support the creators because a lot of the creators that have left, which there was like a mass exodus yesterday, because quite a few left since then. It kind of started with I want to say it started with Todd in the Shadows, and it kind of went from there. Because I'm gonna pull up the Channel Awesome website here, just so I can see who's left. And I'm pulling it up here on my computer. It's kind of hard because I'm recording this on my tablet because, oh boy, yeah, they used to have their site used to have 5 columns here, shows, and now it's down to like 4. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 creators besides Doug Walker. And it's like really sad because it'd be easier for me to say who's still here, and I'm going to emphasize, do not harass the creators about this, don't harass the producers about this, and and don't harass the creators. Just go support their stuff, because a lot of them are on YouTube, and because when they had to close Blip, they had to go over to YouTube. So I'm sure a lot of these creators, if they're still making stuff, they're on YouTube. But the ones who have stayed so far, Blockbuster Buster, Brad Jones, who is the cinema snob. Funny story, he's at a convention with Doug Walker this weekend. They're probably on their way back now, and I guess they had a panel yesterday at this convention together, and no questions apparently were asked during the panel about all of this, about any of this. And so when they but somebody apparently did ask him at the table, and they recorded his reaction. His reaction was along the lines of something to the effect of, I can't say anything right now. I want to say something. I have to wait, and but I can't wait to talk to everybody about our awesome creators and our awesome and my awesome boss. And I I think I think that's what caused what I understand, that's what caused one of the producers to leave yesterday, was that comment about awesome boss. Um, so and in a sense, I kind of feel bad for Doug Walker, because for those who aren't aware, he's actually does not own the rights to the Cinema Snob. Those rights are actually owned by Mike Michaud. He owns, not Cinema Snob, sorry, but the Nostalgia Critic. He does not own the rights to the Nostalgia Critic. Those rights are owned by the CEO, Mike Michaud. And um, and I feel like a lot of this is that they are under his thumb, and I think if they can get out from under his thumb, they'll do a lot better. Um, but we don't know that at this point, because according to everything I've read, even though Doug, um, well, he's a little more active than he lets on as far as the business end of it, but he just doesn't know what he's doing, um, as far as the business part of it, anyway. And so, so why do I have headphones on? So I just realized I had headphones on and they were plugged into the wrong thing, so I don't know why I had headphones on. Um, but from what I understand, the Doug Walker um, is a little more complicit than he lets on about in any of this, and he's just not a good. He's not necessarily a bad person per se. He just um, kind of believes his own hype, um, which is, I guess, a problem with a lot of the creators on here, the ones that left, and um, well, at least some of them anyway, and they believe their own hype, and um, because a lot of it is because they also made promises too that Channel Awesome was not able to keep. So I don't blame them. Um, they're expected to be all famous and everything, and they were promised they were going to be famous and all that, and it didn't happen. Um, so let me read who's here left. Oh, okay. So I mentioned Blockbuster Buster, Brad Jones, Maven of the Eventide, um, who is part of Shay Apocalypse. Tunes These Days, still here. Angry Joe, who had a panel yesterday. I watched the live stream from that one yesterday. He's at PAX East this weekend, and nobody asked him any direct questions about this whole thing. But somebody asked him right off the gate. The first question is, would you do a crossover of Justice League with Doug Walker? And he's like, oh yeah, but he just still danced around the question and just tried to distance himself away from all of this. So we got, let's see, Angry Joe, Bargain Boy, Battle Geek Plus, Gaming Wildlife, Guru Larry. I'm actually surprised Guru Larry's still there, because he was kicked off once. But I think because he didn't get a video in time, but then he was brought back. So Guru Larry's still there. Yomar's, Masako X from Team 4 Star. If anything, he may leave next, because of the fact that he really doesn't need Channel Awesome. He's part of Team 4 Star, so if anything, he might be the next one to leave. Sage, Bennett the Sage, and Screen Crashers. So that's who's left. That's who's left. That's who is left, as far as the producers go. So there's no Chris Stuckman. There's no jerk behind the camera. There's no Mike J. There's no Todd in the Shadows. There's no Linkara. There's no a bunch of other ones. So I was watching a live stream yesterday, and they had the list like right next to it. So there are very few that are left. Brad Jones, I don't think he's going to leave anytime soon. because of the fact that, because I don't think he's going to leave anytime soon. Oh, this is interesting. They still have a link to Rock's. I don't know if they've completely removed Rock's channel, because Rock left. Also was one of the ones that left. Author archives, Rocked. Okay, so they still have Rock's stuff still up here, even though he's left. Maybe a little slow in taking his stuff down. Ask Lovecraft left yesterday. Brandon Tebold left, I think, this morning. Who else? Horror Guru left. Let's see. Who else? A bunch of them left. I can't name them all off the top of my head. But yeah, a lot of people left. The reason why I think if Brad Jones were to leave, I think a lot of people would jump ship right after that too. And I don't think he's going to leave because he's trying to stay neutral in all of this, I think. Because he's, apparently from what I've heard, he's friends with both, he's friends with the Walkers, but he's also friends with Allison Pregler, Obscurus Lupa. And so I think because he's friends on both sides, I think he's trying to be as neutral as possible on all of this. And so he's gonna stay. I think he's gonna end up staying just because he's loyal to the Walkers. But if something is gonna set him off, honestly, if he ends up leaving, I think he's gonna take a lot of people with him. And he's one of those where he could pretty much sustain it. Him and Angry Joe can both sustain themselves without Channel Awesome. I think they've grown beyond Channel Awesome. In fact, I don't even watch Brad on Channel Awesome. I watch them on YouTube. In fact, a lot of the creators that left, I've watched them on YouTube. Mostly because of the fact that I can't. Mostly because of the fact that I watch even Nostalgia Critic I watch on YouTube. Because the fact that I watch, I have a TV that connects to YouTube a lot easier, and I don't have cable, so that's why I end up watching them. And so it looks like some of the creators, they don't have them listed anymore, but they have they don't have them listed anymore, but they have at least that they still have their pages up because they still have them advertising on the front. Blogs. I don't think they even do the blogs anymore. Last blog posted. Actually, they do. Looks like it. April 8th. It's today. So yeah, there's still the blogs up. But I had a blog on here at one point. No, I can't get in. But that was like a long time ago. But yeah, that's I think that's I hope things get better. And because honestly, that apology, that the non apology that Channel Awesome put out was very tone deaf. And if you haven't heard about that, go ahead, read it. And it was very tone deaf and didn't help matters. It just made more people want to jump ship, and that's what happened. So they're not doing any more favors. So they're probably thinking, oh, we can get more creators if all these people are going to go. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. People are now getting worried about this and getting worried about the bad conditions and all this. Oh, and people have been asking about Malcolm Ray and Tamara Chambers, who Malcolm is an actor in some of the videos for channel and some of the videos for Channel Awesome, in particular the Nostalgia Critic. Um, Tamara, same thing, but she also has shows she does on there, like Tamara's Never Seen, Tamara's Never Seen, Tamara Just Saw, um, and she started up, and so and I like Tamara's Never Seen because it's funny because the whole premise is that she's growing up she never watched a lot of movies, so she's now catching up on all these movies she missed when she was a kid, and so that's a good I like that show, and unfortunately it's only on the Channel Awesome site, so on the Channel Awesome channel I should say. So so yeah, they're gonna have to um, hopefully she's able to separate herself from that too at some point when she's but from what I understand they're part of the Chicago crew, so they're not experiencing any of this stuff that everybody else is going through, um, because apparently Michaud treats the Chicago crew a lot better than he treats everybody else. So so yeah, so I'm gonna end the stream now. I got some grading to do. If you don't know, I'm a teacher, so I got not grading. Sorry, I got to plan some lessons for this week. So, um, so luck, love, and lollipops. And if you've read the documents, it's in there. Um, and which is it's a Pinky and the Brain reference. Look it up, and I will see you another time. Let's see where I stop this. Sorry, it's my first time live streaming, so I don't know how to shut off. Let's see here. Uh, yes.